is episode 41 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. This is the last episode where we're going to talk about anything draft related at all, at least as far as projections and everything like that, talking about prospects, because this is the last episode before the draft kicks off on Thursday. We're going to try to have it up by Wednesday, see what happens. But don't forget to go check out our 7-round mock draft for the Bengals and Browns that me and Thomas both released, just talking through the different options that the Bengals and Browns could go through. I released my own, by the time this video is released, I will have released my own personal round 1 mock draft on my personal YouTube channel. So go check that out too. Going for accuracy on that one. But anyway, this week, as far as Bengals and Browns news is considered, pretty huge wrench thrown into the Bengals draft plans. Not so much for the Browns, but, we'll get into, things. There was stuff that went on for them this week too, just not so much related to the draft. And finally, the Steelers don't seem to think they need to fix their offensive line. Because why, Thomas?
Because the Steelers still suck.
Because the Steelers still suck.
And they want to suck for eternity.
They're going to suck forever if they... You know what? We'll talk about that more later on in the state of the AFC North because, that's kind of the entire topic that I have for them. But... they've been such a well-run franchise for so long, and never mind, we'll get to that later.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
All right, so why don't you tell me what you're drinking today, Thomas?
A McDonald's sweet tea.
McDonald's sweet tea. I am drinking water. We are hardcore on this podcast. We just go all day.
Hey, man, look, you know how dangerous these things are? 3 things of these a day, you get diabetes.
Well, yeah, from McDonald's, for sure.
I got a bad habit with that.
They have with their fries.
I got a bad habit with those, man. Those and their fries.
Sweet teas?
Yeah.
I cannot... Not to try to sound like on a pedestal here or anything like that, but I can't remember the last time I ate McDonald's.
You know what?
Cinco would be very disappointed in me.
You know the thing is that I went a very long time without eating McDonald's. I went probably 3 years without eating McDonald's between 2013 and 2018. That's 5 years. So I went that long without eating McDonald's because that was between Youngstown State and OU, and while that Youngstown State, I ate so much McDonald's. So I got OU, I didn't want it at all, and then I worked at McDonald's at OU.
Well, I think the last time I ate McDonald's, I want to say it was probably 2017, and because that was when I was on my old route up in Monroe for FedEx, and there was a McDonald's nearby, and it was just really convenient to go get a quick bite.
When they're convenient,
not really as convenient at McDonald's for me now, which is probably... Oh, wait. There's one right on my route. I just don't like McDonald's.
Yeah. Especially especially if you don't live near a good McDonald's. Like one of the McDonald's that take 20 minutes just to give you a fry.
Well, the one that I live nearby is actually the one where I had my first job. So, I know all about what they're going on. Do what?
I'd never go there then.
What?
By the way,
I don't think they remember. I worked there for 3 months, and I think I quit, and they were like, "Oh, good." So, they never gave me hours. I think I had one paycheck where I made literally $15. It was ridiculous. it was bad, but I was 16. I didn't know how to.
I didn't realize you were being exploited.
I didn't understand how to have a job back then.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, I had that moment too.
And now here I am working 70-hour weeks to try to put, to have a full-time job, put this podcast together, and take care of all my other projects on top of just getting a fucking dog. I mean, man, there's a reason why we haven't had any time to do things together.
Your dog is...
Speaking of not having time to do things together, y'all might want to check out, I'm going to be live streaming the first round of the draft on Thursday. I was going to be live streaming it with Thomas, but he's going to be at the draft.
I'm sorry, man.
It's fine. It's fine. That's cool as hell. He might be making an appearance, and we might get to see an inside look at the draft. But
it's the NFL freaking draft
this time. Do what?
It's the NFL freaking draft. I'm not missing a second of that shit.
Oh yeah, especially if it's in Cincinnati, I do the same thing.
Oh, I can't wait till it's in Cincinnati because then
but
I can't wait to. I think Cincinnati would kill it. But
well,
Cleveland
we
would
just
kill it
I don't
harder.
think we don't have the infrastructure for big things like that. We really don't. We don't have the hotel space. We don't have the. I mean, there's been like some people have asked like, why doesn't Cincinnati ever host a Super Bowl? Well, because we couldn't handle that. We like
I
our
think-
road systems suck. We don't have the hotel space. Nobody ever comes here in the first place. We're not used to it.
I think I could do it. I just got to, you know what it was is y'all gotta have examples of y'all doing it. Like so, the Cavs had 4 straight NBA finals in Cleveland in a row, and as soon as that happened, we had all this media come through Cleveland, and they had these nice and in Cleveland. They had these good spots. They started getting the restaurant spots and everything. Next thing you know, we started having the All-Star games in Cleveland. We got the NBA All-Star game, the MLB All-Star game. We got the NFL draft. We got the NCAA tournament coming through. So I mean, like maybe I just gotta start hosting like these like mid-sized sports events to show like
So
maybe
basically, what you're saying is for Cincinnati to get on the map, the Reds need to become a dominant force in Major League Baseball.
or just build a new stadium and start hosting events there. I don't know. That's just, I mean, like that's why the debate about paying money on sports venues, does it pay off or does it not? I mean, I always think that like I always thought that sports people should view sports as an investment because people love sports. People invest time in sports. We're on a podcast because of sports. That's why sports is such a good investment, because if sports are entertaining, if they're good and they draw in people, then your city can make so much money and you can build your city, and then you can showcase stuff like art. You can showcase stuff like music. You can showcase all the other culture things about your city or your school or whatever if your sports are doing good. Sports are an investment. Sports could be a good investment if you invest correctly in it. If you invest time in it, it will pay back. Because if you win a lot of money. It's proven. Cleveland's a prime example of that.
If Cincinnati needs the Reds to be really good to
Or the
be on the map,
Bearcats.
then I think we might be fucked.
Or the Bearcats could just blow up. And y'all can start.
Well, yeah, but it's the same problem with like the Bengals. The Bengals could go to the Super Bowl, but that doesn't mean we would ever. I mean, well, I guess we could host an AFC championship. That would be a thing you can do.
I mean, what if the Bearcats is like what if y'all start getting a whole bunch of like the Bearcats is a consistent top 10 team every year? Then y'all start getting people just coming in and out of Cincinnati. I got a good coach there at UC, by the way. I love watching Bearcat football. I really do enjoy it. I almost went to Cincinnati because I love their football team so much.
I respect Cincinnati football. They're not my team, but I respect them.
I can not like Cincinnati football.
I do like Cincinnati football. I just I don't follow them as much as I follow my team.
They got a really good head coach there who really embodies what it means to be from Ohio, and I like that more than
who Fickle.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he's a good coach. I like I said, I respect Cincinnati Bearcats football. I just don't follow them as much as some from Cincinnati might.
By the way, since it's the Battle of Ohio podcast, I know it's a football podcast, but the Cincinnati Reds did win the Battle of Ohio in baseball this past week.
Well, that's great. That's great for them. Let's see if that actually translates. They started like 6-1 or something crazy. They were doing so good at first, and then they just fell apart.
Yeah, and then the Indians beat them, and then the Indians beat them once, and they just fell apart after that.
Well, anyway, we need to go ahead and get on to these topics. So we haven't started with the Browns in a while. So let's go ahead and start with the Browns. The big piece of news that came out this week for the Browns was that they're picking up Baker Mayfield's 5th-year option. So before I give my thoughts on that, Thomas, why don't you tell me what do you think? Was that the right move?
Well, I think this is the best move for both parties. Actually, technically, it's probably a better move for Baker Mayfield than it is for the Browns. Because if the Browns signed him now, they could have gotten him cheaper. But I guess picking up a 5th-year option is a good idea because you're able to keep him on his rookie contract as long as possible. The longer he is on his rookie contract, the more players you're able to sign. the deeper you're able to make your team. You know, you're able to have the Clownies and John Johnsons of the world and stuff like that, because you have this cap space, because your quarterback is on a team friendly deal. You're able to create a Super Bowl contender because your quarterback's on a team friendly deal. This is an easy science. For Baker, it's beneficial because Baker Mayfield gets to have another year where he's able to prove himself, because if he signed right now, he wouldn't have got as much money as he would have if he had another good season. If he throws another 30 touchdowns this season, if he have a very efficient year this year, if the Browns make it a second, third round of playoffs and they beat playoffs teams again, he shows that he's not Blake Bortles like Colin Cowherd is comparing him to. You know, it's just a good deal for all sides, because he also makes Baker Mayfield. It also gives Baker Mayfield more of a incentive to prove himself. What if Baker Mayfield won a Super Bowl this year? Does he get a Patrick Mahomes contract? You know, I mean, maybe.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Like,
yeah, he will get a big. If he wins a Super Bowl this year, he's gonna get a big ass contract.
No, he'll get a big contract. He's
especially if he perform.
Mahomes money.
Look. I honestly think this. I think if Baker Mayfield made it to the Super Bowl, I do not. You know how you have them quarterbacks who shy away from the big moment, and you have those people who love the big moment. Baker Mayfield, he strikes me as somebody. If he had a chance to play in the Super Bowl, him and Joe Burrow. Like, that's one thing I love about him and Joe Burrow, is that they both got that it factor where they're not scared of anything. That's why I love watching them go against each other. That's why everybody who's a football fan should see Baker Mayfield versus Joe Burrow, because that's just, in my opinion, I think that's going to be one of the greatest quarterback matches of all time. Like, I am that hype about it, because mentally, those are two of the most mentally tough quarterbacks in the NFL. And you have to be a quarterback in Ohio. You have to be mentally tough. And Baker Mayfield, I think if he played in a Super Bowl game, I think Baker Mayfield is going to show. I think Baker Mayfield will put up his best performance in the Super Bowl. And with that said, I think Baker Mayfield is going to have an opportunity to show everybody how great he is. I think Baker Mayfield's best performance is yet to be seen. And I think his best performance is going to be in the playoffs. I think he's going to have one of those games like LeBron had in playoffs where he just take over a game. And when he does that, people are going to realize, holy crap, this guy is special, and we can't let this guy go at all costs. He's going to get a big contract. Maybe not Patrick Mahomes level, where Patrick Mahomes could own half a baseball team, but he'd probably get a big contract. So this is good for both sides. It's good for both sides because you get to keep a very good quarterback on a rookie deal, and it keeps cap space open. Also, I think they did the same thing with Denzel Ward, who was the number 4 pick the same year that Baker Mayfield was drafted. Yeah. And I think that's important because Denzel Ward, although he's a good cornerback, he's only a good cornerback when he's on the field. He has injury problems. Right. So, yeah.
Well, I do think it was you said they picked up Denzel Ward's 5th-year option.
Yeah.
I think that's a great move.
Yeah,
because I don't know if I think it was a good move for the Browns to pick up Baker Mayfield's 5th-year option though. Right. And the reason I say that is I agree with you for the most part about Baker Mayfield. I think he's a very talented quarterback. I think he's, if he gets himself in another playoff game, he could be, he could really rise to the moment and take over the game and, really put himself on the map and, get himself out. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes money, but I think he's going to be poised for a big contract extension. And that's why I think extending his 5th-year option was a bad idea for the Browns. I think they should have just tried to re-sign him straight up. Get him for as many years as you can on what he's currently worth in the market. And maybe overpay a little bit so that you don't have to overpay out your ass in the future.
Yeah.
Because that's part of what the Browns successful rebuild has been the fact that, I think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have really kind of come together for, a really good think tank up there in Cleveland. But I think part of why you're having such success right now is because Baker Mayfield is still on a rookie contract. You're not paying out the ass for a top tier quarterback, yet you still have, I don't know if Baker Mayfield's quite proven himself as a top tier quarterback, but he's, when he's on, he definitely is. When he's on, he's a top 10 quarterback. When he's not on, there's some issues. So maybe he averages, around like 13 or 12 in the NFL. But you're going to have to pay him like a top 5 quarterback if he has a breakout season, like I'm thinking he might. So, and we remember how that worked out with Jared Goff and the Rams. Now, Baker Mayfield is 10 times the quarterback Jared Goff is. I'm not trying to say that they would be that bad of a move. I'm just saying you're going to saddle yourself with a huge contract if Baker Mayfield has a breakout season. And if he doesn't, there's going to be all that talk about maybe the Browns should move on. And then you got that problem on top of it. I think they should have just extended him. Like giving him an extension now, maybe a little bit above what his market value is to make him think, oh, well, this is a great deal. I should sign this. And then you have him on a reasonable deal for the next 4 or 5, whatever, however many years.
Yeah, that's true. And they're going to what's going to end up happening, like you said. I'm not gonna say it's probably better for Baker. It's better for Baker Mayfield than the Browns because for that reason, like you said, the his contract is going to be huge. His contract is going to be huge, and he's gonna work harder for that bigger contract. But I do like the idea of keeping his ass to the fire. I do like that idea. Showing him that everything's not given yet. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Just that's the biggest benefit from it, in my opinion. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Like, hey, look, your job's not done. You gotta keep on working, bro. Like, all right, because a lot of times, and I don't have no statistics to back this up. I just know this from personal experience and from what I've seen from human nature. A lot of times when people get that big payday before they proven anything, they have less of an incentive or less of a motivation to go out and work for that contract. I know because I'm a Browns fan. I've seen it happen with Browns players. Kenny Britt, Johnny Manziel. Look how much money he got. He got $50 million. These players, I think that they should get the money. Ben Tate, he's another one that comes to mind. Got a whole bunch of money, didn't do nothing. So there's always Ben Tate. Oh my god.
So back to Denzel Ward real quick. Does his extension affect the Browns draft strategy at all? Because you got him for an extra year and he's a top flight. He's maybe not top flight cornerback, but he's definitely a great starting cornerback for you. So does that affect the Browns draft strategy at all in your mind?
I think they should go cornerback in the draft in the first round. So because I don't, I got Denzel Ward jersey. I'm a big fan of Denzel Ward. I love the Ward family and everything they done for Cleveland and the city and the kids in Cleveland before he was even famous. But how much do you really trust Denzel Ward? I mean, Denzel Ward is one of those players who want to be a Brown for life, but at the same time, his injury history is just horrendous. There's somebody who's only been playing for 3 years. Like Baker Mayfield haven't missed a game. Denzel Ward missed a lot of games. Now this kid hasn't even reached his prime yet, but the health issues do bother me. And so I think extending him, going back to what I last said, showing him that his money, his big payday is not guaranteed, put another incentive on it. But also, I think the Browns should draft a cornerback, and just in case the wheels do fall off on Denzel Ward, because as easy as Denzel Ward can become this legendary receiver, he could fall off from injury. So it could go either way. So, so all of a sudden, Denzel Ward is having injury problems again. Okay, so that's one cornerback down. Greedy Williams, he had nerve damage, right? So that's another cornerback that we have problems with. And then we have Delpit. We signed 2 safeties, so we have 2 safeties. But Delpit, I know he's a safety too, but we might put him in the cornerback role. But at the same time, he just tore his Achilles. How are we gonna know he's gonna come back at 100%? So with all that said, how deep are we really at the cornerback position? I know we just signed a cornerback, but he's a slot corner, so we need another lockdown corner. That's why I think the Browns should draft a cornerback in the first round of draft, because I don't think that we have enough dependable cornerbacks. And I think
All right, go ahead.
draft a cornerback, goddammit.
Draft a cornerback, goddammit. So okay,
I've
so
had an idea for that.
in my mock draft, the one that's the first round mock draft that I released, I had the Browns taking Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher out of Miami. Which, if you really saying the Browns need a cornerback, you probably know more about the Browns than I do.
No, Jalen Phillips.
I wasn't even really considering cornerback, to be honest with you.
Jalen Phillips. It's not for me. Like really, the Browns can go anywhere. They should probably go defense in the first round. The Browns can really go anywhere in the draft. So it's more or less preference how you want to build the team at this point. So it matters. What do you think that you're going to need more further down the line? A lot of people think that they should probably draft somebody for Jadeveon Clowney's replacement. That's what a lot of people think the Browns should do.
One thing I can tell you,
I wouldn't mind that,
is as a fan of a rival team that plays y'all twice a year, I would be shitting my pants if Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, and Jalen Phillips were all had their sights locked on Joe Burrow twice a year.
Hey, that would be that.
I would be absolutely pooping. I'd be like, no, y'all might end Ben Roethlisberger's career.
Well, I think the idea is just making the team Lamar Jackson proof. I think that's what they're probably going to do. I think that's what they're probably going to end up doing, because our cornerbacks should be okay as long as we don't have injuries. The cornerback room should be fine, but that's a problem as long as we don't have injuries. It's the NFL, it's football. So I don't like the sound of that, especially for a team that's expected to go deep in playoff run. So,
well, if you're trying to make your team Lamar Jackson proof, then I think Zaven Collins would probably be your best bet. But he wasn't even.
Yeah, that's what I want him.
Yeah,
but I think he's going to be gone.
He wasn't even available when I did my mock. I had him going to the Raiders, I think.
Neither was mine, and I tried a couple of times. I don't think he's. If he's there, I don't think he's going to be there. I think I got an eerie feeling that he's going to be gone. But if he's there, yeah, take him. Oh my God, take him. Yes.
You know who is going to be there? The guy who's probably the best linebacker in this year's draft, which is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So
yeah,
maybe go get him. I don't know.
We'll see.
But anyway,
so many ways you can go.
There are a lot of different ways you can go. There's only a couple of ways the Bengals can go in the draft. I mean, well, with the number 5 overall pick, technically there's almost an infinite number of ways they could go, but there's only a couple of realistic ways that they could go. And that list might have gotten shorter because supposedly now, and this is just a rumor. I mean, this is the era. This is the right before the draft is the time of 1,000 lies. So we don't know how true any of this stuff is. We don't know exactly what's going on. But it sounds like the Falcons have put Julio Jones on the trade block. And it's not likely that a trade would go through until after June 1st for salary cap reasons. But they're planning on trading Julio Jones. Does that mean that Jamar Chase is on the board for them at number 4? That could really affect the Bengals' plans, which, as you know, Thomas, as anybody who watches this podcast with any sort of regularity would know, I'm telling you, and I've been telling you, that Jamar Chase is the Bengals' plan at number 5. If he's not there, there's only one other thing that's going to happen, and that's that they're going to take Penei Sewell. I mean, we've talked about it. We would both love to see Kyle Pitts, but it would be if the Falcons take Jamar Chase, it's going to be Penei Sewell, which you would avoid a shitstorm with some of the more hardcore Bengals fans if that would be probably the most clean way to get away with as few people complaining as you can, to have Jamar Chase be taken before the Bengals are even on the clock, and then they take Penei Sewell. That you would have the least number of Bengals fans probably complaining about the pick at that point. But like I said, this that would pretty much make the Bengals' decision at number 5 pretty easy.
If they trade Julio, then does that mean they're done with Matt Ryan? are they doing a tear down, a rebuild, or are they thinking
No, I think that actually means they're if
trying
they
to build around them?
I think they're expecting Matt Ryan to be. I think they're expecting to move on from Matt Ryan like within the next few years, but I don't think they're necessarily planning on doing that right now. They might. They could always go with Trey Lance at 4.
You know. If I'm the Falcons, I'm still taking Pitts.
Oh yeah, any team in this year's draft that doesn't need a quarterback should take Pitts.
Yeah. So no, if I'm the Falcons, I'm still going Kyle Pitts at 4. Because if you're keeping Matt Ryan, then you still want to get him weapons. Go ahead and trade Julio. There are plenty of receivers in this draft. This is a very deep receiver draft. Trade Julio, get a second round pick and draft the receiver with that second round pick. I mean, you don't have to draft the receiver in the first round for it to be great. Receivers are quickly becoming the running backs. Very, very quickly. People are finding these receivers. The best receivers in the draft aren't coming out of the first round anymore.
I think if the Falcons traded Julio Jones and only got a second round pick out of it. I mean, I know he's getting older, but he still seems to be capable of playing at a high level. So if the Falcons trade Julio Jones and all they get is a second round pick out of it, I think Falcons fans might riot.
Yeah, me too. Man, that's even more of a reason for why they should take picks, because they're able to get another high pick to draft another receiver in this deep receiver draft. I mean, yeah, I do it. I still take Pitts at 4. Because Pitts, if Pitts is a generational talent, just put him at tight end, and then you got tight end. Go get another young receiver to pair him with Ridley. Man, you're good. I mean, the Falcons' problem isn't their offense anyway; it's the defense. They got a lot of talent on that team.
They do have quite a bit of talent
for them to be that bad.
Right. The problem for us, I mean, obviously the problem for, me and the Bengals is if they are going to trade Julio Jones and maybe they take Jamar Chase. But then again, it's like we get Penny Sewell, I'm not going to be upset about that. It's still a fine pick. I'd be totally cool with that. I just wonder what we're going to do in the rest of the draft at that point, because I'm not feeling this wide receiver depth nearly as much as I'm feeling the offensive line depth. But the thing that would really kind of suck for both of us if the Falcons trade Julio is there is a good chance that it could be the Ravens who pick him up.
That would suck for both of us. But how's Lamar Jackson gonna give him the ball?
Well, that's why a lot of receivers aren't choosing to go to Baltimore, right? But if you get traded there, you don't have much of a choice. And I mean, he would be the number one option. There wouldn't be any question about that. So, I mean, he would be better off going there than most people would.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, he would be. He would.
Anyway, getting back to the point about the what's going on with the draft. Again, this is the last pre-draft podcast. So I just want to mention a couple more things about the Bengals draft strategy here. If the Bengals take Penny Sewell at number 5 because Jamar Chase has gone to the Atlanta Falcons, which I still don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, then I think the Bengals should trade that number 38 pick down. Because I'm not, like I said, I'm really not feeling this wide receiver class as much as I'm feeling this offensive line class. So, if you take an offensive lineman with the number 5 pick, which is Penny Sewell, then I don't think you need to be in that 38 spot to get the best player available that fits your team and fits your needs and fits et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to be at the 38 spot to get that next guy. You can trade down and still get somebody who fits your team just as well as somebody who would have fit your team at 38. So maybe it's not the worst thing in the world because, like I've said, the Bengals aren't trading the number 5 pick, but they could trade that number 38 pick, and they could pick up a couple extra interesting things there and add some more talent to this roster. I don't know exactly what their plan is. Nobody does. But I think that if Penny Sewell's number 5 pick, you could potentially see that number 38 pick be a trade down option for the Bengals. And then you're looking at, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if that's what happened. I mean, I don't think it would be so bad anyway, because I think, Penny Sewell would be just as impactful as Jamar Chase. And we're not going to get the guy I want anyway. So, it is what it is.
Man, I think, I've been thinking about this. If the Bengals don't get Jamar Chase, Penny Sewell is like probably where they should go. And I know I'm a big fan of y'all know how much I'm a big fan of Kyle Pitts. But I'm with you. I think that I think I should just go offensive line on this one. Like I should just go offensive line on this one. Like I should. It's just like it's something you need to do. Get somebody to protect your quarterback. Get somebody who
I've mentioned before. I think I mentioned on this podcast. I definitely mentioned on the mock draft episodes. But just because offensive line is the biggest need on this team doesn't mean you need to use the number 5 pick on offensive line.
Yeah, sure.
There's so much depth there. But again, if Jamar Chase is gone and you're not going to take Kyle Pitts, then Penny Sewell's the pick. I mean, there's no real question at that point. Nobody else is even comparable talent-wise. So, yeah, just go get Penny Sewell at that point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Protect the offensive line.
And any other, speak now or forever hold your peace, Thomas, but is there anything else draft related you want to talk about before the draft gets here?
No, I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, they just built a giant stage out of pretty much dust and put it right between the Brown Stadium and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's pretty phenomenal if you haven't seen the photos of it.
Yep.
It's really phenomenal if you haven't seen the photos of it. But other than that, no, I got nothing to say about the draft stuff. I'm just excited about it.
All right. So with that, then we leave it to the fates. We see what happens. Like I said, look out for me doing a live stream on Thursday, and maybe Thomas poking his head in and saying hi. Maybe Friday and Saturday too, although I don't know, because those like day 2 and day 3, if I'm not mistaken, day 2 and day 3 happen start at noon, right? So it's gonna be kind of hard to do a live stream in the middle of work like that.
Yeah.
And I do work on Saturdays, so I don't know if it's going to work so well for day 2 and day 3, but I'm going to try to do it for day 1. So we'll see what happens.
All right, awesome.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on now to the rest of the AFC North. Just take a quick look. Some pretty big news coming out of Baltimore. They finally did find a trade partner for Orlando Brown Jr., who, as if you'll recall, requested a trade because he wanted to play left tackle and the Ravens wanted him to play right tackle. And which doesn't make any sense to me, right? Like, I think Ronnie Stanley is a better right tackle than a left tackle. And I think Orlando Brown Jr. is a great left tackle. So I'm not sure but the Ravens coaches probably know their team better than I do. I just don't think it makes any sense. But anyway, the Ravens got Kansas City's first round pick, which they're probably just going to use on another tackle. So, I mean, it's kind of like, it's not really an upgrade for the Ravens, but it's like kind of a win-win for both teams when you think about it. Because like the Chiefs can go get a guy like Sam Cosmi and fill in their right tackle position with a guy who wants to be there, and get rid of a disgruntled player in the process. And then your offensive line. I mean, their offensive line still needs work on the interior, but you've got your 2 tackle positions set, which you kind of already did. But now you got a guy who wants to be there at right tackle. In theory, I haven't heard anything specifically from Sam Cosmi about playing right tackle for the Ravens, but I'm sure he'd be fine with it. And then, I mean, obviously the Chiefs, they go and, make a huge upgrade to their offensive line, which was the big problem with their, a lot of people attribute that to why they didn't win the Super Bowl was because their offensive line was in such shambles by the time they got there. So Yeah, I think that was a pretty good trade for both sides here.
I feel like the Ravens won that trade because you get rid of you get rid of a disoriented player. You get draft a new offensive line, a cheaper offensive lineman, somebody you don't have to pay later, like you said.
Yeah. Well, my only thing is like I don't know if they necessarily won that trade because I really don't feel like Kansas City lost. Because like Kansas City got Orlando Brown Jr., which yeah he was disgruntled in Baltimore, but Kansas City has an opening at left tackle, so he's not going to be disgruntled in Kansas City. And he's a top tier. He's an already proven top tier offensive tackle in the NFL. So it's like any guy you got get in the draft. It's like the Ravens might not be upgrading, especially in year one. They're most likely going to be downgrading at least a little bit. The Chiefs are upgrading and probably would have used that number 31 overall pick on a guy like again Sam Cosme.
Yeah, so you're switching places, I guess, pretty much.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like I said, I think it's a win-win for both teams, and I mean, I guess by that moniker, you could say the Baltimore Ravens won this trade. But again, I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs lost this trade. I think they both won. I think it was a good move for all parties involved. Like literally all like I mean, it's great for Orlando Brown. It's great for the Ravens. It's great for the Chiefs. It's probably great for whichever tackle the Ravens pick up in free agency.
It's great for the NFL because they get to protect their child, Patrick Mahomes, more. You know, the NFL love protecting their favorite quarterbacks.
Man, AFC West fans, like rival AFC West fans, are losing their shit right now. Like Brandon Perna, the host of That's Good Sports, he's a Broncos fan, and whenever the Chiefs do something like this, he freaks out, and he is absolutely freaking out over this. It's actually pretty funny.
I'm sorry, I toned you out when you say AFC West. Anytime it's a division that's not the AFC North or the AFC North opponent, which is the NFC West this year, I just completely just zone out.
Fair point. This is a Bengals Browns podcast, not a NFL, not an NFL at large podcast. So
I'm joking.
We should keep focused here.
No. I'm joking. I'm serious.
No, I got you. I'm John too.
Okay.
So, yeah, we already talked about Julio Jones possibly going to the Ravens. So moving on. The Pittsburgh Steelers, there's almost no news to talk about here. I actually kind of had to dig to find something to talk about. But what I did find was an interesting remark made by Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert in their recent press conferences, which it sounds like the Steelers like their offensive line better than other people like their offensive line. Does that sound familiar to you, Thomas?
It sounds like they don't want to grow.
It sounds like they don't want to grow. It sounds like what the Bengals said about their offensive line last year. Remember how that worked out? That was bad. In particular, I'm talking about
if Ben Roethlisberger takes the hits that Burrow took, he'll retire.
Yeah, but in particular, the remarks I'm talking about are when Mike Tomlin was talking about this guy with an impossible to pronounce name, but they call him Chucks. So Chucks Okorafor. Is apparently, like in Tomlin's mind, is penciled in. Again, penciled being the key word, but penciled in as the starting left tackle, despite being he's a third-round pick. He's completely unproven, and he played like shit last year. He got a 57.4 grade by PFF. It was terrible. Alejandro Villanueva was the only lineman who graded higher than a 70 for them in 2020. And he appears poised to sign with the Ravens, speaking of the Ravens. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen, but he definitely doesn't seem like he's going back to Pittsburgh. So, like I said, remember how well that overconfidence in a bad offensive line unit worked out for the Bengals last year? Spoiler alert, it didn't. So are you trying to get Ben Roethlisberger killed? I mean, maybe they are. Maybe that's their strategy. Maybe they're like, you know what, 2021 is going to be a wash. We're just going to accept the fact that we're going to suck. We're going to get Ben Roethlisberger. We're going to put a hit team out on Ben Roethlisberger and get him to be forced to retire so that we don't have to deal with his contract anymore.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're just like, all right, well, he's gonna retire anyway, so let's just force him to retire. And then, like we
talked about last year, it sounds like they're going to draft a running back with their first round pick. So I mean, just like the sheer arrogance that I guess a team that's won, that won 6 Super Bowls like 50 million years ago can have. So
That's great. That's great.
yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
So yeah, basically the moral of the story is the Steelers still suck.
The Steelers still suck.
Yes, they do.
Y'all suck. Y'all city sucks. Smells. Nah, it's not bad. Y'all city don't suck that bad.
So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it for today's episode, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast. Like I said, don't forget to go check out that 7-round Bengals-Browns mock draft that me and Thomas put out. By the time this episode comes out, I will have put out my 32-team round 1 mock draft on my own personal channel, which I will likely link in the description for you guys to go check out, no matter who your favorite team is. But most likely, if you're a regular of this podcast, it's the Bengals or the Browns. And I already spoiled who I picked for the Browns. So, and we all know who I'm picking for the Bengals. So I guess just go check it out because I put a lot of work into it.
Yep, he did.
I've been busting my ass.
Trust me, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I'm not hating on your grind because trust me, I have PTSD. I still think I'm working on Driving While Black.
Yeah. Speaking of which, everybody go check out Thomas's new music video, Driving While Black. It's
a banger.
Very well put together.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So anyway, y'all can follow us further on social media. You can find me at Kyle Phelps92 on Twitter and Facebook.com/ThePhelps. You can find Thomas at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram, and he's got a YouTube page called Blowdown Page. So yeah, just don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if we said anything stupid or if you agreed with anything that we said or whatever. Just like if you create buzz, even if it's negative, I don't really care. It gets people talking about us, so that's good enough for me. Yeah. Lately, all the comments we've been getting have been like, I think like Russian sex bots or something like that, trying to like sell some fucking like website or something.
Yep.
So, but either way, that put comments on our video, so that's better than what we had before, I guess. So yeah, just let us know if you like the podcast. Let us know if any of y'all are out there hearing what I'm saying.
Check out this link.
We're gonna be putting out content either way, just because we have fun with it. But it'd be nice to hear if somebody's actually listening to this. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and I'll leave you with a Who Dey.
Go Browns.
Between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.